Good afternoon, everybody. What's happening? What's going on? It's your one and only girl, Tiffany L. French, coming through live in effect. So, as you can see, as always, I do with Black history on a consistent basis. So, today topic we're going to be talking about Jeremiah A. Brown. Jeremiah A. Brown was a politician and civil rights leader that held out of Pennsylvania, but he was a politician in Cleveland, Ohio. So it was by coincidence that I happened to pull up his biography and pull up his name and his date of birth and all of that. So today is his born day. And of course, we want to honor his legacy. We want to see what he has contributed, what he has done so far. And we're just going to go from there. All right. So what I would like to do is give me a second. So what I like for you guys to do is make sure you hit the notification bell, subscribe to the channel, share the channel with anybody. And also, as you can see my Cash App information scrolling at the bottom. Please make sure you, donate if you like what you're seeing. All right, give me a second. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So as you can see, this is the picture of Jeremiah A. Brown, the politician that held out of Cleveland, Ohio. So that's a picture of him right there, as you can see, that's scrolling across the screen. All right. Let's see. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started about his information, his biography. All right, so this is his biography right here. And this is the only source that was available. So here's his story. All right, so right here it says Jeremiah A. Brown. He was born on November 14th of 1841, and he died on March the 28th of 1913. So today is his born day. Right, so he was a politician and a civil rights activist in the American city of Cleveland, Ohio. Early in his life, Brown worked on steamboats with Mark Twain. He later moved to Cleveland, where he was elected to the Ohio House of Representatives in 1885, where together with Benjamin W. Arnett, he played an important role in fighting Black laws, supporting education, and working for the civil rights of Ohio's African American. He also held numerous state and national political appointments. All right, so let's look at what the Black laws are first and foremost. Okay, Black codes. Now, where's the Black codes? According to this, on Wiki One, the Black Code, sometimes called Black laws, were laws governing the conduct of African Americans, free and freed Blacks. The best known of them were passed in 1865 and 1866 by Southern states after the American Civil War in order to restrict African Americans' freedom and to compel them to work for low wages. Although Black codes existed before the Civil War, and many northern states had them, it was the southern United States that codified such law in everyday practice. In 1832, James Kent wrote that in most of the United States, there is a distinction in respect to political privilege between free white persons and free colored persons of African blood. And in no part of the country do the latter, in point of fact, participate equally with the whites in the exercise of civil and political rights. All right. Peace to the brother in the chat. Peace, peace. Thank you for coming through. Peace. And then also it goes down and says, since the colonial period, colonies and states had passed laws that discriminated against free blacks in the South. These were generally included in slave codes. The goal was to reduce the influence of free blacks, particularly after slave rebellions, because of their potential influence on slaves. Restriction included prohibiting them from voting, although North Carolina allowed this before 1831, bearing arms, gathering groups for worship, and learning to read and write. The purpose of these laws was to preserve slavery in slave society. All right, so as you can see, that's the story about the black laws or the black codes, okay? So the black code was basically to keep African Americans suppressed of their rights and keep them from being able to have the freedom like any other citizen. Now, let me say something real quick before I get into the biography. You know, at one point in time, you see, black people didn't really become citizens or being recognized as citizens until after the voting rights. And that was around 1965. That's when black people really started to become recognized as citizens. But even prior to that, they were recognized as Americans, right? Or somebody that has a national origin here in America, you know, being born in America, but they weren't recognized as citizens. So there's a difference between being recognized as an American and being recognized as a citizen. So you could be recognized as an American because prior to the 1965 Voting Acts and Civil Rights, right, blacks were recognized as American, but they weren't recognized as citizens. So that means, yeah, you're American because of your national origin, but you don't have any rights just like anybody else. You don't have any, you don't have any standards. Okay, you don't have the privilege, the leverage like anyone else. So your privilege is limited. Your rights is limited. But after the Voting Act and after the affirmative action took place, then that's when they was recognized as citizens. But still then, racism was still going on. But they were still recognized and say, okay, you have a little bit more right, you have a little bit more leverage than you did before. But don't get too happy, because we can always take that away from you. You see? So when we look at somebody like Jeremiah A. Brown, who was a politician, and this was around the 1880s, okay, and the civil rights, yes, there was a civil rights act during that time period, all right, but it wasn't as prevalent as the one in 1964. Okay, it didn't become prevalent until 1964, but there were civil rights leaders, and there were those who spoke out against racism, who was speaking out against lynching and all that other stuff. It was so many of them. All right. So let's look at his biography. All right. So going down, it says that Brown was the first African-American to receive a political appointment in Cuyahoga County, the first to serve as a deputy sheriff in Ohio, and the second to be elected to Ohio state legislators. You know, Ohio has a great, interesting history. You know what I'm saying? It really does. Oftentimes you don't hear much about, the African-Americans, in particularly in Ohio. So it has a lot of great, interesting information. Now, me, I grew up in Georgia. I was raised in Georgia, but I was born in Ohio. So, but I spent a lot of my life as a kid in the South. So I grew up very Southern. I grew up as a Southern girl. And so I never really got that much of an experience of Ohio. I just, know a little bit about it, from the years that I was staying there. And I stayed in Cleveland for a few years. So, and Cleveland is a very interesting city, in my opinion. Very interesting. Very strong African-American population out there. They do. They have a very strong African-American population. And also, same with Akron, where LeBron James from. Because I was born in Akron. So, and Akron is pretty interesting as well for it to be a small city compared to a big city because it's small. They have a very interesting African-American population there too. So you'll find a lot of African-Americans in the state of Ohio, especially in places like Cleveland and Akron. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. And there's so many hidden histories behind it too that don't get put on the forefront. So let's just look at his biography, his life, how he grew up. So Jeremiah A. Brown, who was known as Jerry, was born on November 14, 1841 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He was the oldest child of 6 children of Thomas A. and Frances J. Brown. His sister, Hallie Quinn Brown, was a noted educator and civil rights activist. He attended school in Pittsburgh until the age 13. His classmates included Reverend Benjamin Tucker Tanner, Thomas Morris Chester, and James T. Bradford. He then joined his father as a steamboatman along the Ohio and Mississippi rivers. As a steamboatman, Brown claimed friendship with Mark Twain and was said to be a survivor of the famous 1858 explosion of the steamboat Pennsylvania. Now let's go down here. About the age of 17, he apprenticed himself to James H. McClellan to work as a carpenter and joiner. Now, what is a joiner? Okay, so a joiner is an artisan and tradesperson who build things by joining pieces of wood, particularly lighter and more ornamental work than that done by a carpenter, including furniture and the fittings of a house. Ships. Joiners may work in a workshop because the formation of various joints is made easier by the use of non-portable powered machinery or on-job site. Interesting. Okay. Very interesting. He has some unique skills. We need a lot of those people today. Anyways, many other employees of McClellan quit when Brown joined the shop, unwilling to work with a Black person. He also attended Avery College in Allegheny, Pennsylvania for a short time. After his apprenticeship, Brown's parents moved the family to Cheatham, Ontario, to be away from discrimination. When the U.S. Civil War began, Brown moved to St. Louis, Missouri, to work on steamboats. On January 17, 1864, he married Mary A. Wheeler, sister of Chicago lawyer Lloyd G. Wheeler and Hartford minister Robert F. Wheeler. Brown's wife died in the late summer of 1904. Brown later remarried and he had 2 children. All right, so let's look at his political career. Now, around 1869 or 1870, Brown and his family moved to Cleveland, where he began his political career. His first position was as a bailiff of the county probate court, followed by deputy sheriff and county prison turnkey. He then became clerk of the city boards of equalization and revision, and finally letter carrier for the post office in August of 1881, a position he held until being elected in 1885. He was also involved with Black social movements, taking part in numerous state and national conventions of colored people at least as early as 1884. And then goes on to say, in 1885, he was elected to the Ohio State House of Representatives. His district was estimated as being 1/10 Black. He frequently worked with another African American legislator elected that same year, Benjamin W. Arnett. Arnett's district was 1/20 Black. He was very active in the legislature, particularly in working to end the Black laws in Ohio. He was especially known for passing an anti-discriminating insurance bill. In 1901, Brown became a member of the Ohio State Republican Party Executive Committee. Yes, and once again, you had a lot of Black people in that time period that became Republicans. So you didn't find too many Blacks that were into the Democratic parties during that time till later. But let's continue. He was active in Republican politics and supported prominent Ohio Republicans, including John Sherman and Mark Hanna, for which he was awarded with public positions after serving in the legislature. In 1889, he went to Washington, D.C. to get appointed to federal civil service position, and in 1890, he was made United States Customs Inspector at Cleveland. Brown was appointed clerk in the Internal Revenue Bureau in Cleveland. In 1902, he was put in charge of the Office of Immigrant Inspector in Cleveland. He held a number of other appointments, including deputy in the State Insurance Commissioner's Office. Now, that's a lot of positions to be holding on to. He held a lot of positions. Brown was also a member of the Carpenters and Joiners Union of Cleveland. He noted in 1886 letter to the Black newspaper, the New York Freeman, that he opposed segregated labor unions. Brown was a prominent Mason in Ohio and was a Grand Master of Prince Hall Masonry. Yes, he was part of the Prince Hall Masonry. He was a Grand Master. He also served as trustee of Wilberforce University. And I think Wilberforce is a HBCU. Yeah, it's a HBCU. Later in life, he was active in promoting education and religion. He was a member of the Congressional Club of Cleveland. Brown was raised in the African Methodist Episcopal Church and was a member of the Mount Zion Congregational Church in the denomination United Church of Christ at his death. And then he died in the morning of March 28th of 1913. So let's see what it says in the footnotes. All right, so here's some information in the footnotes. You got www.newspaper.com. All right. All right, so here it is. Here's a newspaper right here. Newspaper article. Let's see if I can blow this up. All right, well. Give me a second, you guys. Sorry about that. Then my screen went out on me again. Oh, wow. Interesting. All right. So here's the newspaper right here. Let's see if I can. Okay, well, maybe. So here's an article called the Ohio Campaign, the Washington, D.C. August the 3rd of 1901, page 1. So that's Jeremiah A. Brown. Let's see what they're talking about right here. Let's see what they're talking about over here. Okay, so here's the entire newspaper. Actually, is the B Washington, and that's his picture right here. So that's one of the sources that was used. Let's see what else we can find. Okay. Okay, so anyways, and that's all the information that I have available. Again, and if you want to go ahead and check out more, you can if you want to check out more information, you can look it up on the Wiki One, which is kind of like Wikipedia, Jeremiah A. Brown. So there's the information at the bottom. And the reason why I use this source, because I know that this is everyone go-to website. So I feel like, okay, if you can go to and look for all other things, then you can go to the information itself and to back up wherever you find and whatever source that you come across. So I just always try to make that easier for people. But anyways, you guys, that's all I have as far as the information goes. And I thank you all for watching. I thank you all for tuning in. For those of you that's just coming in, you have to watch the video from the very beginning. And you can go ahead and share it. You can hit the notification bell. Also, if you want to send something to my Cash App, that's my information at the bottom. As you can see, $tip world. $tip world scrolling down at the bottom of the page. So if you want to send something, you're more than welcome to do so. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that a lot. Yep. But anyways, that's all I have for today. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, a wonderful afternoon, whatever your time zone may be. Please be safe. Please be careful. Don't get caught up. Don't get caught up out here. Just be safe out here. So, we got this pandemic that's still going on. So do the best you can while you in this pandemic. Be careful. Yes. Please be careful at all costs. All right. So anyways, with that being said, you all have a wonderful day. You all have a wonderful afternoon. And I hope to talk to you guys later. All right. Take it easy. Peace and power, elevation be to all of you.